Few bands in rock history have created music as timeless, or as dramatically fueled, as Fleetwood Mac. Behind their lush harmonies and emotional lyrics were real-life romantic entanglements, betrayals, and heartbreak that rivaled a soap opera. Their story is one of creative genius and personal chaos, where tangled love lives directly shaped the sound of their most legendary records. This is the tale of how Fleetwood Mac turned personal turmoil into musical gold. The early days. A British blues band, Fleetwood Mac began in 1967 as a British blues group formed by guitarist Peter Green, along with Mick Fleetwood, John McVie, and later Danny Kirwan and Jeremy Spencer. They were initially known for bluesy guitar work and a raw, emotional sound. Their early albums, such as Then Play On, built a solid reputation in the UK, but the band was plagued by instability. Peter Green left in 1970 after a mental health breakdown, reportedly triggered by a bad LSD trip. Other members would come and go over the next few years, and by 1974, the group was in desperate need of a creative spark and a stable lineup. Enter Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham. That spark came in the form of a young California couple, Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham. The duo had recorded an album together, Buckingham Nicks, and were brought into Fleetwood Mac by Mick Fleetwood, who heard the album through a mutual contact. The chemistry was immediate, musically and emotionally. With this new lineup, Mick Fleetwood, John McVie, Christine McVie, Lindsey Buckingham, and Stevie Nicks, Fleetwood Mac was reborn. The blend of British rhythm and blues with American West Coast rock created a sound that would catapult them into superstardom. Their 1975 self-titled album, Fleetwood Mac, was a massive success, featuring hits like Rhiannon, Landslide, and Say You Love Me. But behind the scenes, tensions were already beginning to simmer. Romance, breakups, and betrayal. By the time Fleetwood Mac began recording their next album, Rumours, the band's personal relationships had imploded. Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham, who had been together since high school, were going through a bitter breakup. John and Christine McVie were divorcing after 8 years of marriage. Mick Fleetwood had just discovered that his wife was having an affair with his best friend. To make things even messier, Mick and Stevie would later have a brief, secret affair of their own. It was a tangle of love triangles, heartbreak, and resentment, all while the five of them continued to work, write, and perform together. Instead of derailing the band, the drama fueled their creativity. Rumours, turning heartbreak into a masterpiece. Released in 1977, Rumours is one of the most iconic albums in rock history. It sold over 40 million copies and won the Grammy for Album of the Year. But its real power came from how raw and personal it was. The songs were essentially musical diary entries about each other. Go Your Own Way was Lindsey Buckingham's searing response to Stevie Nicks leaving him. Dreams was Stevie's haunting rebuttal, telling Lindsey that players only love you when they're playing. Don't Stop was Christine McVie's hopeful tune after her breakup with John. You Make Loving Fun was Christine's ode to her new lover, Fleetwood Mac's lighting director. The Chain, the only song credited to all five members, captured their determination to hold things together despite everything. The tension in the studio was so thick it could be cut with a knife. Songs were often recorded separately. Communication broke down. Cocaine use was rampant. But the pain and passion were real, and that's what made the album resonate with millions. After Rumours, Success, Strain, and The Edge of Collapse. The overwhelming success of Rumours put Fleetwood Mac on top of the world, but it also intensified the internal struggles. They followed it up in 1979 with the experimental and darker double album, Tusk, driven heavily by Buckingham's artistic vision. Tusk didn't match Rumours in sales, but it was still a critical success and proved the band was willing to evolve. Buckingham pushed boundaries with production techniques, but the cracks in the band's foundation deepened. The band toured heavily, and the pressure, mixed with egos, addictions, and lingering romantic wounds, began to wear them down. Mirage and Tango in the Night, hits and tension. In 1982, Mirage marked a return to a more radio-friendly sound, producing hits like Hold Me and Gypsy. However, by this time, members were working in isolation, and the creative energy was less collaborative. By 1987, they released Tango in the Night, another massive commercial success. It included iconic tracks like Big Love, Little Lies, and Everywhere. But despite the glossy production and hit singles, things were unraveling behind the scenes. Buckingham quit the band just before the tour began, leading to a nearly physical confrontation with Nicks. He was replaced by guitarists Rick Vito and Billy Burnett, but the original magic was fading. Solo careers and new paths. As Fleetwood Mac drifted into different versions of itself, members began pursuing solo careers. Stevie Nicks became a major solo star with albums like Belladonna and hits like Edge of 17 and Stand Back. Lindsey Buckingham released several solo records showcasing his distinctive guitar work and production style. Christine McVie also released solo work, though she eventually left the band entirely for over a decade. The band continued in various formations throughout the 90s, including the 1995 album, Time, which was critically panned and failed commercially. Many believed Fleetwood Mac had officially ended. The 1997 reunion, The Dance in 1997, something magical happened. The classic lineup, Fleetwood, the McVies, Nicks, and Buckingham, reunited for a live album and tour titled The Dance. It was an enormous success, proving that the magic hadn't faded. The chemistry on stage was undeniable, even if old wounds remained. They performed their classic hits with new energy, and audiences around the world embraced them once again. The Dance went multi-platinum, and Fleetwood Mac was back in the spotlight. The 2000s, on again, off again. Fleetwood Mac continued to tour through the 2000s and released the album, Say You Will, in 2003, without Christine McVie, who had retired from touring. The album featured both Nicks and Buckingham prominently and leaned heavily into their longtime musical and emotional push and pull. They embarked on multiple world tours, with fans always wondering if they'd get one more studio album, or if the next breakup, musical or personal, would be the last. In 2014, Christine McVie rejoined the band, and the full classic lineup reunited for the On With The Show tour. Buckingham's departure, again, and final touring years in 2018, the band shocked fans by announcing that Lindsey Buckingham had been fired. Reports cited a dispute over tour scheduling, but tensions with Nicks reportedly played a major role. Buckingham later claimed he was dismissed after Nicks gave the band an ultimatum. He was replaced by Neil Finn, of Crowded House, and Mike Campbell, from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. While the band still filled arenas, many fans saw it as the end of an era. The loss of Christine McVie in November 2022, Christine McVie passed away at the age of 79 after a brief illness. Her death was a devastating blow to fans and the band alike. Known for her warm, soulful voice and melodic songwriting, Christine was the heart of Fleetwood Mac in many ways. Her loss marked the closing of a chapter in the band's history and left the future of Fleetwood Mac uncertain. Legacy, love, pain, and timeless music. Fleetwood Mac's story is unlike any other. Most bands collapse under the weight of a single failed relationship. Fleetwood Mac survived multiple overlapping affairs, divorces, betrayals, and breakdowns, and somehow turned them into chart-topping hits. Their best music wasn't just catchy, it was raw, emotional, and real. Rumours isn't just a great album, it's a rare moment in rock history where personal anguish, honesty, and artistry aligned perfectly. The love triangles and tangled history behind Fleetwood Mac aren't just tabloid fodder, they're part of the DNA of the songs. The pain was real, and so was the brilliance that came from it. Final thoughts: a band like no other. Fleetwood Mac is a testament to the idea that art can emerge from chaos. Their love triangles weren't distractions, they were the very fuel that made their music unforgettable. Even with all the heartbreak, the band kept coming back together, again and again, like a family that couldn't fully let go. Maybe that's why their music still resonates, because it speaks to the messy, painful, beautiful truths of being human. Their songs will outlive every scandal, every fight, every fallout. And in the end, that's what makes Fleetwood Mac truly legendary.